Okay, so I'm back and I am just continuing on with turning this into a useful site model that we can just manipulate or export as a visual for our site. So as you can see, I have this mesh here. It comes out as a mesh, and I can, to use it for anything other than just looking at it, I can connect it to the mesh component in Grasshopper, and I'll connect it here. You can see it gets darker because I'm basically looking at it twice. I'll just turn this off. Also, the other thing I wanted to do before I get on, the thing I said before about not importing your file every single time you open your file, because sometimes it might just get a bit slow to start up and it can crash. So you can see here I have my files, so I can actually connect the file path to this one. And then I can do this thing, internalize data. So it will just save the location in this one. And then with Control Shift, I can move both of these over here. So what I've done here, I have downloaded the file. I can turn this off now because I don't need to download anything. And I still have now I'm just working with an existing OSM file. So it means if I lose internet connection, if I accidentally, I don't know, change my boundary here or do something, this plugin can try and download anything and it won't crash. And you can do the same with topography file here. So I'll just do the file path, connect it here, internalize the data, and connect it to my topography here, and turn this off. So this way I'm just saving myself kind of like computing time and power. Delete that as well. So I have the mesh. First thing, so it's the reason it's floating above is because it's at the altitude it is in the real world. So obviously this is somewhere mountainous, so it is above the kind of level 0. It could also be because the coordinate systems might be different for different file types. I'm not going to try and fix it by kind of finding the right coordinates or the right height, because at the end of the day, nobody cares about that kind of the absolute height of it. We just want to have a site model with the different terrain across it. So I will just move it down. Use the move tool. I have my geometry. I have the motion in the z-axis. I want to use a negative value, so we'll just say minus x. What did I do? No. Minus x here, commit changes, and then let's say if I move it down by, I don't know, 1,000 meters, which will be quite low, I think, but we'll see. So it just moved it kind of or along the negative direction of the z-axis. And I'll just move it slightly here. The reason I'm doing it is just so when I go into my perspective mode, nothing is floating. So I can now turn off this mesh. And I have a mesh that's close to the ground. Again, I'm not going for super precise. I just don't want to. I just don't like the geometry kind of like floating in the middle of nothing. The closer I am to like 0, 0, 0, the better. And of course, if you have your specific site, you can actually make some calculations between that point and the mesh and then move it so that your site is exactly at the 0 level. It just makes it easier than when you go into different side views, like front, right, whatever you use to get your the drawing easier, but that's a future problem, so we're just approximating here. Okay, so I have the mesh, and now I want to take my buildings, and then you can see the buildings are all on the same kind of level as they're imported, and chances are you can probably get some height data somewhere, but it's complicated. So what I actually want to do, I just want to take these buildings, and I want to take their center point of their base plane, and I want to project it onto this mesh and then move these from the point to point. I will show you how to do it. So if I go back to my the one with buildings, so you can see there is the feature geometry one and the buildings. So buildings is the and this is the 3D one, but I'll just use the feature geometry. Even if I connect it to the area component, it gives me the area, but also gives me the centroid. So if I look down, you can see that for each of these buildings on the base plane, I get the center point for it. So I can, and basically I'll move the center point up to the mesh and then move the buildings along it. It's not going to be precise. Some buildings will be sort of like stuck in the mountain, but we're not going for precision. We're going for a quick side model here. And So I have my buildings here, and I have a mesh. So what I want to do is I want to project. Project onto a B-rep, onto a plane. Which one do I want to use? I think I want to use the B-rep. Just let me check. And I was wrong. So the correct one I want to use is the mesh closest point. You'll find it down here under the mesh analysis. And because we'll be using projection curve for curves later on for the roads, so I'm doing buildings first here. So I have so what I want to project, it's my centroid, so the points that I have here. And the mesh, of course, is this mesh here. So what I have here, as you can see, is all these points have been moved onto my mesh. And I can then use these as reference points for moving the buildings. So I think there is a moved point component. And what I'm moving is my geometry. So I'm moving my, let's see, I think I'm moving my buildings. So if I connect my geometry here, I know that's the 2D ones. I think I'm moving my 3D ones. Yeah, these ones here. Okay, it's a data matching thing now. So let's hope it works. So I'm moving because, of course, if I have more points than geometries, it might be an issue, but usually it won't be. Don't worry. Geometry is this one. Point A, so from point A, which is my centroid here, and point B is the point that I projected. Okay, what I see here now is my buildings on the terrain. So I'll just quickly turn off all of these. Oh, not the mesh, where's the mesh? And I'll turn off these as well. Okay, and now if I zoom in, you can see that I have my buildings sitting onto my mesh. It's a bit difficult to see. What I can do is I can do the custom preview. I go to custom preview and connect my geometry and then a color swatch. Just do something slightly less bright. And I'm going for some kind of pale green just to kind of represent the geometry over here. And if I set my view to unrendered, maybe. No, which one was it? I don't know why it's showing it as. I'm doing the wrong thing. I don't know why it's probably my graphics card, to be honest, but it's just easier to see that my site is here and I have my buildings sort of like sitting on the site. Chances are your laptops will look better because your laptops are better than mine. Cool. So I've done it so far. I'll just go back to this kind of preview. And maybe I need to turn off this one. Well, I don't know. Anyhow, I'm not going to waste my time on it. I have buildings, and the next thing I can do is I can project my curves, so my roads, onto the site model so I know where the roads are. So you can take your existing roads and project them onto your project them onto your mesh as they are, but you can see that they are sort of like single lines rather than like a double width thing for roads. And I know some of you will prefer them as sort of like offset ones. So I'll show you how to do it with the roads, and then we can also create the kind of like the thickness of the roads if that's what you want. Just be mindful that sometimes these curves are not perfect in terms of geometry, so sometimes you'll have some overlapping things, and then when you try to offset them, you'll just have really kind of ugly looking curves. So sometimes it's easier to keep it more abstract with just single lines, and rather than try and kind of make them look more accurate, more realistic, but you just cause yourselves issues by doing so. So the thing is, projecting curves on the mesh is a bit tricky. So what we can do though is we can download a plugin for it, or we can just turn the mesh into a B-rep for this particular exercise. So if we go on the display and preview mesh edges, you can see that this mesh is sort of like these mesh quads, which is how it came in from the topography model. And to turn it into B-rep, I will take this mesh, and the first thing I want to do is triangulate it. the reason I'm doing it because obviously when it's a quad, it's not a planar thing, so I can't turn it into a B-rep. For B-rep, I want the poly surface that is made out of polygons that are planar. So a triangle will always be on the same plane, so I just turn everything into triangles. So take this geometry and triangulate it, and now it's the same geometry, it's the same terrain. I've just turned it into triangles, and then I can get the mesh edges. Which one? Which one is that? I can't find it. Where is it? Mesh faces? No? Which one is it? Face boundaries, that's the one I'm after. So I'm connecting my mesh to the, it just creates these boundaries, and then from these boundaries I am going to create my B-reps. So I'm creating edge surfaces. No, that's not the one. Boundary surface, sorry. Boundary surface, that's the one I want. It's taking its time, because it's quite a big mesh. I should have really been less ambitious with this for tutorial. And now I have a bunch of surfaces, and now I can do the B-rep join. It's taking a couple seconds, and I'll just turn all these off just so because it's every time you create something new in Grasshopper, it just creates a new copy of it, so you end up sort of like stacking things. It's not always easy to see what you're actually doing. Just click on this now. You can see I have all of this. So and I have one open B-rep. Excellent. And now I want to do the project curves. So project a curve onto B-rep. Perfect. I have my curves, which are my highlights here. Feature geometry. And it's saying something. Okay, what is it saying? It's not happy with lots. Let's see if it works. And then connect it to the B-rep. And now we wait. So it's this one of those times when it gives you a red error. It basically just says data conversion failed from point to curve. It means that some of the data in this component here is actually points rather than curves. So you can filter it out if you want. I mean, I'm not too bothered about it, but if you wanted to, you can do first of all connect it to the curve component, and you'll see that it has the same errors. So I can do clean tree, or actually no, it's not. It's not going to do it because it will. Let's see what it does. And if I do curve again. Okay, now it's happy because it's basically it's removed everything that's an invalid value, the clean tree components. So I can, instead of connecting that one, I can connect my curves from here. And you can, I'll turn this one off, the branch on. And you can see that now I have my curves onto my mesh. It's not a perfect exact thing, but for the purpose of creating a quick site model, it's useful. And then of course, if let's say this was my site here, I could then actually redraw these in Rhino and Grasshopper, make them more accurate if I needed them for my site boundary something. But for a generic overview of what the roads are, I think this is more than plenty of information, and you just need to make it look pretty. So, and I'll now that I have projected them, I will just turn off all of these, just so I have a nice clean model, and I don't have anything sort of like stacking when I try to export it. So the thing you can do, as I said, if you really wanted to, you can try and offset these curves to create some kind of like a width to your road. So I'll take these curves here, my base ones, and I'll do the offset curve. I'll do it both sided. So let's say I am, where are we? So I am offsetting them something like 1.5, so 1.5 meter either way, so like 3 meter thing, and then I need to do it on both sides. But for the, if you want both sides, you just need to do the negative x again, because basically it's asking you how far do you want to extend it to the other side, this both sides one. Kind of feels like a boolean, but it's not, so it can be a little bit tricky. No, not that. Expression. And minus x changes. And now you can see you have these kind of I know, double-sided lines. And now instead of projecting my single lines, I can just project my offset curves onto the graph. And now if I go here, you'll see that I have my roads. Of course, there is, all these edges and stuff that I know, again, some people find really annoying. For me, it doesn't bother me. It's not the main thing I'm looking at, but if you really, like, if you wanted to then clean it up on a 3D surface, this is when you need to be quite kind of understanding of Rhino and meshes and how it kind of deals with geometries. But for a quick side thing, I think this is more than enough. So hopefully that's useful. And then what you can do is you can export, if you don't want to work with this in Grasshopper, you can export this through Rhino. So I take my mesh that moved up here and I can bake it. Just bake it, let's say layer 1. And here we go. If I turned everything off in Grasshopper, I'm in Rhino. And I have this nice little mesh I can work with. I can move it around, I can play with it. I can start cutting things in it. So if I wanted to cut my rows or something in it, or I had some water features I wanted to import, that's all I can do. I'll just go back so it's in the right place. And the other thing I can do if I wanted to, instead of just having mesh as a simple plane, I can actually, there's the, I think it's called thicken mesh. Or, there's thicken mesh, but that will be either Weaverbird or Pufferfish, or one of those components. So I will do, I don't know, something like 10 meters. That might be quite a chunky one, but we'll see how it goes. And create solid is set to true, so it means it creates these edges as well. So if I now bake this one, saying to layer 2, just to give myself some ability to control it in Rhino, I will turn layer 1 off. And I'm on layer 2, so I have this mesh, which is now like this thick plate that I can use. I'm pretty sure you can import it in Revit, SketchUp, whatever you need. And it's just a nice clean mesh that you can work with. And I think that's basically it. I don't think there was anything else. But of course, as always, if there's any questions or anything, just let me know and I'll try and help you as I can.